Okay, hello everybody who is joining us. I am Erin Quill. I am subbing in for the fabulous Jennifer Beatty-Yen for the Filmmaker 72-Hour Shootout Wrap-Up. The Film Lab is a not-for-profit organization dedicated to the support and promotion of gender and racial parity in film and television. This year's theme for our 72-Hour Shootout, which is a film that is made from start to finish within 72 hours, this year's theme was Practical Dreamer. Okay, and all the films incorporate being a practical dreamer in their films. The top 10 films were all screened at the Asian American Film Festival in August of this year, but registration began in March. The competition creates a valuable opportunity for filmmakers of color, focusing on Asian American filmmakers and women, as well as other underrepresented groups to demonstrate their talent, gain exposure in the entertainment industry, and impact the visibility of diverse stories and characters in film. One of the shootout requirements is that at least one key production member, for example, the director, producer, or writer, and a principal actor from each team must be of Asian descent. So that is my intro. We are very fortunate to have 4 of the winning films here represented today by the filmmakers. I'm going to let each filmmaker introduce themselves and give us the log line or a brief summary of their film. Arjun, why don't we begin with you?
Sounds good. Yeah, hi, Arjun Rajesh. I'm the writer-producer on the short film You Don't Need Me. And the quick logline is my anxious creative girl struggling with finishing a product or her final project seeks guidance from her wiser older brother, creative older brother, to figure out the crossroads that she is at right now.
Great. Chris, do you want to introduce yourself and introduce a brief summary of your film?
Sure, I'm Chris Kachopli. My partner was the writer and producer of this film called Dreamweavers, which is about kind of taking Filipino folklore and building from there. So there's a folklore creature called the Duende, who's sort of like a Filipino gnome who comes to America to try to raise money to support his village. Yeah.
Great. Vasu?
Yeah, so I worked on the film You Don't Need Me with Arjun. So he said the
okay.
Fabulously. Yeah. I was the lead actor on that
yes,
film.
You were the actor.
Mm-hmm.
Great. I have that actually written down. So I apologize for being like, Vasu, why don't you tell us about your film? Like, clearly, I'm operating at 1,000.
If you give me an opportunity to yap, I'm going to do it, you know?
You know what? As somebody in the entertainment industry, I fully appreciate that. Oh, and then see, we have even more people coming in. That's the issue. If I seem a little crazed, that's because I'm pulling people in even as they show up. Okay, Tyler, do you want to introduce your film and tell us what you did on it?
Sure. My name is Tyler Sino-Maradiaga. I was the director of Ulam, which followed a young woman who searches across New York City to gather ingredients to make a traditional Philippine soup while memories of her mom play back in real time, which guilt her into making it the best meal it can be.
Perfect. Okay, Cezanne, do you want to chime in and tell us what you worked on? I mean, I know what you worked on, but tell the audience what you worked on and give us a brief summary.
Sure. Cezanne, the movie Blue Agate. The Blue Agate is about a practical dreamer who wants to get ahead in his workplace and inspires his boss that she also was a practical dreamer at one point.
Great. Keith? All right. Keith's like all over.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, guys. I was one of the writers and co-directors of MSG, which is about 2 brothers and their blind dad who is complaining that he can't see anymore, and he just wants to watch one more Knicks game, right? And he's just so his sons put together a scheme, a practical kind of scheme to fulfill their father's dream by tricking him, saying, "Oh, he's blind, he can't tell the difference." So they put him in front of the TV and pretend that they're going to a Knicks game. Yeah.
Okay. All right, Gabriel, are you ready to talk, or are you still gathering yourself?
I'm still gathering myself.
Okay. All right. So, and which film, Gabriel, did you work on?
I'm working on the Kingdom of Spartacus. It's about it's about a missionary that goes to Haiti,
Oh,
and it tries to help build a school while she's there, while and tries to survive while there's gang violence.
okay. That is a lot to put into a short film. Okay, so now I spoke with Jen before this Zoom call, and because I am filling in as much as I possibly can, she wanted to talk about the actual production of it because a lot of people who are considering entering the 72-hour shootout are intimidated by the timeline. You know, how do you start from soup to nuts? Chris, do you want to tell us how you started with gathering your team?
Yeah, we actually had a really small team. We used backstage because I know through AFL we had kind of access to backstage, so we found pretty much our entire cast that way. And the crew was volunteers that we met at the AFL kickoff party. Actually, there were one or two people we met at the event, so it was really kind of thrown together that way. But I think that it speaks to the organization, right? And then you should try to attend those events because whether I think one was in person and another person was virtual, but we were able to kind of wrangle people together who would be around that weekend to help do audio or just help gaff or whatever. So yeah, that's how we put the team together.
Okay. Suzanne, did you choose anybody from the AFL parties or?
We met a couple of people. We didn't actually connect with anyone during the event. My team was our initial team was my husband and I, and the director that I worked on a short film for. I asked her if she could direct for me. She ended up being the writer and director, and actually she brought on the gaffer, the cinematographer, and the editor herself. And my husband and I did the production, and I was also an actor in it. And one of my friends that I take class with, he was David, who was the lead actor. And we just enlisted all of my employees as extras. And I was like, because it was during work hours, I was like, guys, here, sign a waiver. You're going to be on camera. Nah, side note, you won't win an Oscar, but you'll be fine. And that's how we worked. We had a spot. We didn't know the theme, obviously. So we just worked everything around what we could work around, what was guaranteed.
Right. And Arjun, the theme is announced at the last minute, essentially. Like, did you gather your team before the theme was announced, or did you have your team ready to go and then the theme was announced and then you were like, ready, go? Like, how did that?
There was only 3 of us, the director, myself, and my husband, and the rest of the team got together 2 weeks or a week before the theme was announced, and we still didn't know the theme. The editor came on the day of the shoot, so she had no clue about anything. And I mean, it was all actually really lucky. We got super lucky that we weren't stressed.
Great.
I don't know. I wasn't stressed.
Great. Arjun, you want to answer the question?
Yeah. I think like our core team had 2 of them had worked on this last year, our director Jenny and my other producer Amin. So we had sort of like our core team of me, Amin, and Jenny already sort of assembled, and we were sort of brainstorming like topics that could be announced, or we were sort of just like general, just like writing whatever, just like random notes. And then Jen, we sort of had a short list of actors that we all like worked with that we could like sort of like dial up on a moment's notice, reached out to them if they were available and if they could like be a pop potentially wanted to work on this on short notice. So we had around like 5 actors that were down. And then for like the rest of the crew, Jenny works at a company called RealWorks. She was to assistance from like RealWorks and get some preliminary crew, including like the DP who she worked with before, potential editor who ended up dropping out. So Jenny, our wonderful director, ended up taking up the editing handles as well. But yeah, we had a very lean and mean crew. A couple of like backup options. So, and all of them, we sort of cross-reference the availability. So, but yeah, the core team of the writing team was probably the most important. And then sort of everyone else sort of fell in line as we figured out who was available and who wasn't. So getting the short list down and then reaching out like a week before really helped.
So Vasu, when did you join the project? Were you on the short list of the week before, or you were walking down the street and they yank you from obscurity? How much notice did you have?
Look, whenever Amin or Arjun text me and they ask me to be in a project, it's always going to be the same answer. Yes, hell yes. So I was notified maybe, I don't know, Arjun, like a week before or the week of, a week before?
Around like, oh yeah, like Saturday, the weekend before.
The weekend before, and they were like, are you free next weekend? I'm like, let me check my Google Calendar. Lucky for them, I was free, and
that's great.
So I had a week's notice. It was, it was definitely different, because everything has to be created within such a short time span. And as an actor, the preparation process, it's always like, I would always love more time with script but you kind of got to segue from that, just like a self-tape audition. Sometimes you need a 24-hour turnaround. So just like that, you have to have a quick turnaround for this too. And luckily for me,
very true.
Producers and directors and the crew all had me prepared to the highest level. So it was awesome. I'm always going to say yes to Amin, Arjun, or Jenny.
And that's what's interesting about the Film Lab is like whether you meet somebody that becomes a part of your crew or whether you go into it with them saying like, let's see if we can pick up more people to help fill out our crew. The Film Lab is there to make these connections, especially for people who've been in groups that have been underrepresented, because it is very difficult as a creative trying to get into the business and pushing yourself so hard to really find answers. People have gotten into the business all different ways. So there's no one set way, but if you at least have, it's always best to have a friend. And if you can approach this process with a friend, it kind of makes it less scary. Tyler, your film is Ulam, yes? And it follows a young woman who searches across New York City for ingredients to make a traditional Filipino soup. And you worked with Yuan Wei on it. Did you have your locations locked down ahead of time? How much of because the script can be pulled together, we all know that, but having locations and having actors and stuff, how much prep did you have going into the process?
Thankfully, a lot. So Yanwei was my producer for my thesis film over at Brooklyn College. We went to grad school together over at Fierstein. And so he put us all together before we actually got started. So we had the team for the most part locked down. But one of the cinematographers we really wanted to work with, Celine Amaron, she's super talented and really wonderful. She won a Filipino Academy Award in cinematography. Like, she was actually going to be in the Philippines during the shoot. Like, it was last minute, and we're just like, how do we actually use the fact that she's in the Philippines as an asset instead of it being like a negative? So basically, we basically had her shoot a lot of footage in the Philippines. Meanwhile, while we had a crew here in New York City. So I feel like that the only thing we kind of had in mind was just like, well, we have our crew. We know some of them are here in New York City. We know some of them are in the Philippines. So like, how do we make that work? And how do we build a story of like amongst the theme and everything all together? So we were, just had to pull all our resources together. And I think we wanted to use the fact that we're separated as a benefit rather than like for visual interest in the story rather than a negative. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Keith, how do you feel did the theme help you with the prep? Was your prep enough to support that theme, or did you have your production ready to go and then you're like, oh wait, this theme is totally different than what I thought it was going to be. Let's change.
Yeah, so I think in my experience, limitation always fosters innovation. So we didn't go into this project with any like story prep or anything like that. Obviously, we had like I went to NYU, so like all my crew was my friends from NYU that had their own gear and everything. Actors were also people that they're the same cast as for my thesis film and everything. So like I just brought them back for the exact same to play some similar roles. And yeah, I think Also because like we have so much going on in our lives. Like squeezing a 72-hour film challenge is hard. So we all like right after our sets or jobs or everything like that, we just like got off and immediately went to meet when the prompt dropped, and then we just pumped something out. We had a location, we had a parking garage, we had a car, and we're like, okay, what can we do with these 3 Cantonese speaking guys in a car in a parking lot? And you know, like I know we operate on like an entertainment first policy. So it's like, okay, like what would engage the audience the most, and what can we like I know this is like the Asian American Film Lab, but like you always want it to be like human first. It's not like this exclusively an Asian story. Like Asians are human beings too. So it's like, okay, what can everybody kind of like get into? What can everybody kind of emotionally connect to? And we just came up with a story about a dad and his 2 sons that, you know, like everybody can relate to that and everybody can find some sort of heart in that. So yeah, the theme honestly made it easier to work within certain constraints and gave us like a clearer vision once we got through that roadblock of like, how are we gonna make this theme work? How are we gonna get the symbol in? Yeah.
I was actually surprised when I heard the theme this year because it is much more general and open to interpretation than the Film Lab has been in the past, which I was like, oh, I'm really interested to see what everybody does with it because it's not as definitive. You know, some years it's been very like, not to pull from this, but like stop Asian hate. And and like there's very few ways you can go with that. You know what I mean? Like there's a very specific message that they're investing in that particular year. So it was like practical dreaming, you know, within the Asian American community. Not only do we have numerous groups, but we have numerous ways that we have been told, or our families or friends who are older than us have been told, like, what is practical dreaming? Like practical dreaming in many ways in the past has been like, make sure you become a doctor first so that you can fund your films. Like, do this first so that you can get to the dreaming. And now we're at a generational gap where we get to dream, right? And people think it's kind of just as practical because they can see a way forward now with it. Whereas, like, you know, some of our peers who are older don't really have that combination of practicality and dreaming combined in one unit. So who have we not talked to? Gabriel, are you here? I'm gonna say Gabriel's not here. Okay. Susan, what did you think of, like, how easy was it for you once you'd gotten your script together? How easy was it for you? Did you have your locations locked down before you started? You have your office and you had your office, you had your employees, but was it?
We only had one location designated that was 100%. So we hoped that the theme would fit the location.
Mhm.
And it was so broad that you could basically make that work into anything. So it worked out just fine. I don't know. I just felt like our main actor, David, he's done this competition a few other times prior, and he was like, we have to make sure we cut off by this time so we can edit, and it's stressful. And I didn't really find that because when you, I don't know, because the people that we worked with were so easy to work with. The actors were super fun to work with. One of my friends has a lighting company, so he supplied a lot of the equipment for us and helped set it up. So I mean, I just got really lucky basically. And I didn't get any of the horror stories. The story basically came out super organically. I'm an immigrant myself, so it really spoke to me because this business is basically fruitioned out of my parents being practical dreamers and saying we can do this. So it was kind of meant to be, I feel like, just so it was super fun and exhilarating, and the collaboration between all of my teammates just kind of, we became one unit, one mind, and it just sort of, I don't know, blossomed into this film.
Chris, did you think that everything came together exactly as you wanted it to, or was it like luck? How much of it was luck, and how much was it planning?
A lot of planning. Like I'm the type of person who lives in Excel, right? So like I spent, all of Saturday morning making a super detailed shot list, like getting us down in like 20-minute increments, and just try to stick to that because we had 3 different locations we had to bounce in between. And like I said, it was a small crew. I was directing and shooting, and then I knew how to go and edit. So I needed to make sure that we were done so I could just stay up for 24 hours and edit straight, right? So I was trying to stay on top of it that way. But story-wise, I think it came together like maybe from an art perspective, right? Like Elaine, our writer producer, I had no idea that she was also a talented illustrator. So like when we're on set and we needed to fill the space with something that looks cool and organic, she just hand drew it. It was like a skill I didn't know she had. And you had just other actors who also happen to be really good at like lighting for some reason. And like so stuff like that came together in this collaborative way, which is really cool. But in terms of the structure, yeah, I was trying to keep us, to schedule.
To the minute. Yeah, you have to like we lose this location in 5 minutes, so everything has to happen. Right. Tyler,
Yeah.
did you feel time pressure on it? Were you like budgeted to the minute?
Not necessarily to the minute. Thankfully, I think that we worked with a very small crew, and those folks that Yanwei had like pulled together for like these are folks that like I've worked with on multiple projects now at this point. And I don't know, I was just very grateful to just be working with, and I'm sure everyone here is like, it's the best thing when you get to work with your friends, right? So even if you might be the most stressed in the world and such, and it's like, I need to get this shot or anything, at a certain point, it's like, that you have the support around you. And I don't know, there's nothing better than that. So yeah, definitely, we had definitely a lot of little stressful little moments. Like there were like props with like, we need this prop, we need this and something like that. But I think one of the other most beautiful things is that it was a film about moms, and like we basically, I think like 3 different people across our team basically asked their moms to like, one of the moms is Celine's mom is the voiceover in the film. Yanwei's mom ended up like starring as like the modern day version of the mom. Like, so we basically I think we were just calling up everyone's like, all right, who's got a mom that is available right now to be on camera and things, or like willing to give a voiceover. So I thought that was just really beautiful, is that like a film about moms ended up having all our moms in it last minute. So
that's really sweet. Arjun, did your mom like yell at you for not being in your film?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Well, if she sees this, then she's going to be like, why, Tyler put his mom in. Could have been her big moment. Keith, when you said you worked with most of the actors that were in your thesis film, how similar was the plot for this film as opposed to your thesis film? Like, were they able to just slide right in, or were you asking something different of them?
Yeah, it was completely different. My thesis is about an Asian influencer who's super famous for doing like racist Chinese impressions, online.
Right.
And they were all part of the on-screen family for my thesis, as they are in MSG, like the 72-hour shootout film. But the roles are completely different. Like they're playing completely different family members and completely different characters. But because I knew them so well already and they trusted me, I was able to direct them way easier than it was with iChinese, which is my thesis film's name. Even though there was a lot more prep time for my thesis and everything, I just by virtue of knowing them better, like they were pretty natural, and also knew what their weaknesses were, who I needed to, how to direct them, how to get certain, how to get what I needed from the actors. So it was really easy. I also was able to utilize language better. So the entire 72-hour shootout film was in Cantonese. And I understand that their dynamic when speaking Cantonese versus their dynamic when speaking English. And with that particular group of actors, their performances are actually weaker when they're speaking in English. But because everybody's used to having a Cantonese speaking family, speaking Cantonese automatically slots them into that character, and also gives them that kind of it's almost improvisational. So it's almost more natural because even though the script's written in English, but if you're speaking in Cantonese, you're translating and pretty much making up the lines on the spot. It's pseudo improvisational. So the delivery is much more natural, and it just feels like they're talking to their old senile dad. Like that's just how
Right.
Hong Kong people talk. So yeah, it was actually easier just because I knew them and I've worked with them before. So
Vasu, you've worked with Arjun before, yeah?
Yes, I have.
So the same thing. Do you have like a shorthand when you work with him?
Oh, that's my guy right there. It's like Stephen Clay, you know, over at the Golden State. So I mean, whenever I work with him, it's super natural, and you know, I feel like we can always bounce off each other, finish each other's sentences, know what each other thinks. So as like a director and actor duo, it's invaluable because we can just get to the next take really fast. He knows what I like, I know what he likes. So yeah, I think that type of relationship and chemistry is impeccable, especially when making a film with such a short turnaround like this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Also has like a wonderful writing background as well. So like when working with like actors with just multi-faceted level skills, it's so much easier to click, especially when I'm interpreting like a script. Just having deep knowledge of like writing for an actor, it's just so seamless.
Yeah, it does help when you're able to have that conversation where you're like, this is what needs to happen. This is how the script is supporting you, but like there is room for a little bit of improv or whatever, just to make sure you get the message of this scene and then we proceed onward. Tyler, how was it working with your actors? Now, were your actors in 2 different countries as well? Were they in the Philippines and in the United States?
Yeah, so Celine basically asked, like similarly, I think to some other folks were mentioning. So at least here in the United States, I basically worked with a completely new crew of folks. So our lead was played by Lena Huang, and she's a wonderful actress that Yan Wei worked with before. But because she was a part of, even if I didn't know her, since she was a part of Yan Wei's film family out here, I feel like we clicked so instantaneous. But I think very similarly, it's just like since since that was the first time working with her, she was phenomenal and amazing. But also like trying to learn like, all right, where can we mold these performances and things like that. On the flip side, for Celine literally was just asked her friends, similar to I feel like how a lot of folks are like, it's like who's available, who can star right now, who wants to play like a mom in the '90s essentially, and so like
who doesn't want to play a mom in the '90s? Come on.
No, for real though, like yeah, like easy. So basically Celine went on and so basically Selena went on and shot everything by herself and basically was just like, it's like, yeah, so here's the footage that we have to work with. And so working with Lena, working with the rest of our team as far as like, all right, so how do we form the rest of the story based on this footage? So it was a really fun challenge because it was like, yeah, it's like, so we got this footage, like this is the footage we know has to go in at some point. So like, what can we make out like around that, right? So.
Right. It's like it's like a creative ride roller coaster that you're really on for 72 hours. And, you know, some people wait until the last minute. Did any of you wait till the last minute to submit the film? Or were you like, I've got it down, I figured it out, I can submit that film in 70 hours. Anyone? Not everybody waited till 72. It was like tick, 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 two, press send.
No.
Every single person?
No.
You got it in 71?
We submitted at 6 o'clock. I needed at least like a 2 to 3 hour cushion because I was scared if it didn't load or somehow the Wi-Fi cut off. I don't know, some crazy shit happens. So I was like, I need 2 hours of loading just in case something goes wrong.
Very, very smart. Chris, were you waiting until the last minute or?
Well, the editing on this was pretty grueling because I've done this contest a few times before, and every time I try to push myself. Like last time, I entirely used puppets, right? And before that, I entirely used like special effects makeup. So this time, I wanted to try to do some, simple effects. So there were things like disappearing. There were things him like jumping through a portal and landing on the other side. So a lot of that was painstaking. So I needed every second I could get. I didn't have the luxury, but I wish I did.
There you go, Tyler. How quick did you get it in?
I think I have the same amount of anxiety that Senzen had. Was like, I was like, we need this to upload. We need to make sure that if the link will work. We need to do our quick QC check. So there was a certain point where even the sound mix we were listening back, our composer listened back to it. It's like, you need to put this one sound effect much lower, and I'm like, I think it's a little too late, my friend. We're not, we can't do that. Like, it's like, I'm so sorry, you know, like at a certain point, it's like, yeah, like, it's like, hoping that like, what do you balance essentially ultimately in the edit? I'm sure everyone else was feeling like, it's like, if I had a little bit more time, like I would have done this a little bit better, but sometimes it's just like, if it's like, you just got to get it in. So.
Yeah. Arjun, how fast did you get it in?
I left that in the hands of like Jenny. She took over the edit. But yeah, they were
Fair.
able to get it in like in a timely manner. I think they finished like 3 hours ahead of schedule.
3 hours ahead of schedule. Huge.
I just
Keith,
with our like
how-
additional
how-
editor dropping out too.
Yeah, big shout out to
oh.
Jenny. Big shout out to Jenny.
Yeah.
Yeah. Keith, how fast were you able to get it in?
It was a pretty big time crunch. But we got in on time eventually. A lot of us were working on different sets and just like had other jobs during the day, so I had to get like a separate friend to edit it. But it was somebody I trusted, so like I had to like I was working at Tribeca like as like staff, like one of the venue staff. I was like scanning tickets, right? But so I couldn't like leave my post. But so I had to like on my lunch breaks, I would have to like be like, okay, can you guys save like a banana for me? I gotta go like go to this editing session. So like I'd like bike all the way to my like friend's apartment after on my lunch break, supervisor for like an hour and a half, and then like bike back to work. It was intense, but you know, we got it.
Yeah, that's great. So, all right, now how do all of you make a living? Like, you know, the 72-hour shootout is a competition, right? So what are you doing to support yourselves while you're realizing your dream to be filmmakers? And we can start with Cezanne.
I'm a general manager at a stone fabrication shop. So it's construction. So we do countertops for kitchens, bathrooms, full cladding on walls, exterior and interior, but not commercial buildings, fireplaces, any sort of custom work. I've been doing this for the past 20 years. I've only started acting about 5-6 years ago, and my transition, hopefully in the next 3 or 4 years, will be full-time acting, and this will be in the past.
Awesome. Tyler, you want to tell, what do you do? Like, in addition to filmmaking?
Yeah, I do a lot of freelance producing and like grip and electric and cinematography. And I'm a program manager over at RealWorks, so a nonprofit that focuses on doing job training for POC and LGBTQ folks in the film industry, and also for youth, like for after school programs and in school too. So.
Oh, cool. Chris?
I work in advertising, so I've kind of.
I worked in advertising.
There you go. I feel like everyone. I don't know if you're in New York or not, but most of New York does.
Yep.
To some extent or another. Yeah, just kind of typical ad agency, more on the performance media side and audience building and things like that.
Oh, cool. Arjun?
Yes, I've been like working sort of adjacent to the entertainment industry in like various like entertainment and corporate roles. So I worked at like market research for FX. Moved to New York to work in like strategy and development for the History Channel. But I left to work as like a business analyst for Paramount's revenue operations team.
Oh, nice. Vasu, what do you do for your day job?
Yeah, besides acting, I work in tech as well. But I do quite a bit of commercial, TV, film work as well. Taking advantage of the remote working opportunity.
Right, exactly. Keith, what do you do? You're finishing up your degree, or?
Oh, I graduated last year. But yeah, I direct commercials, and I also and I do sound mixing as well. So like production sound mixing. So yeah, freelance, not the easiest, but I mean, that's what I know.
Well, none of it is easy, and I think none of it is easy, and that's why we do try to like support ourselves and like continue to support our dreams. But it is, you know, it's continually patting your head and rubbing your stomach, and then like juggling a ball over here, and you know, I'll throw it to you and you'll catch it and like continue to go. I mean, I've had tons of different jobs. I've worked in production. I was a director's rep. I worked in casting. I've done all the things. Like somebody would talk to me and I'd be like, oh, you just do that. It's just because, I just kept moving. And I remember my uncle, my uncle John, he passed, but he was an Emmy Award winning producer for miniseries when we used to have miniseries. And now we don't seem to have them anymore. Now it's like limited edition runs on streaming services. But back when he used to do miniseries, he said to me, the most important thing you do is every job that you take is adjacent to what you want to do, and it continues to support your dream. That you can learn something from any, day job or whatever that you have to take. As long as it does that, then you're learning on the job and you're building your skill set. So I think in exactly that way, sorry, I just got a note about nonverbal feedback. I don't know what that's about. Is there anything that you want people to know before they go into a project like the 72-hour shootout? Tyler?
Yeah, I think it's just like having the right amount of preparation, right? I think for myself, it was like, I think we had like our teammates like pretty locked in. And I feel like that was like a really great way to go about it, right? In the sense of like, we know who our collaborators are. And even then, so like, we still were calling our moms. We said our composer, Eduardo, was phenomenal and put an amazing score on it. But we didn't meet, I didn't know him prior to the 72-hour shoot, right? So I think a piece of it's like knowing who are you going to collaborate with and who are going to be the avenues that you're going to reach out to, right? Before you're going to inevitably need some help in some shape, way, or form, right? So I think that would probably be my advice.
Exactly. Keith, if you had any advice to give, what would your advice be?
I think a lot of people, especially the people that like do this for the first time, there's like a lot of my underclassmen at NYU that like ask me like, oh, do you have any advice when you go into this? I'm like, yeah, just like I like to have fun, because the entire point is that you don't get the prompt until like it drops, right? So don't like stress about it. Just like obviously do all your due diligence, like get your crew together, like get a location, but like the fun of it is like just like improving and like coming up with a story in like 3 hours based on the prompt that you get, and just like having fun with it and seeing what cool shit that other people get to make as well. So I don't know, just like have fun. Like this is like a fun activity to do, like versus like regular productions, which is just like so much pre-production, so much work where it almost isn't fun anymore. Like this is like one of those things where it's just like, yeah, this is like when people first started making movies, they just made stuff. There was no like insane pre-production or like huge budgets or like permits and like contracts, anything. Like just a couple of friends getting together and making cool stuff. And I don't know, I just really appreciated this the 72-hour shootout, because I don't know, the year after graduation I was so kind of like swamped in like commercials and like just like proper productions and everything, where like I kind of forgot that I could just literally get together with my friends and like just make something fun again. It just like, yeah, it was, I don't know, just have fun, that's my biggest advice, I guess.
Cezanne, you want to chime in with any advice?
I would say be prepared on all of the things that you can actually control, like your team you can control your locations, you can, like all of the things that you have control over, be prepared for that. And don't sweat any of the stuff you can't control, because you can't control it. So like the theme, the story, that's all going to come to you when the theme comes. But if you're prepared on what time you're going to start, where you're going to start, how long it's going to last, here's when we break for lunch, this is the time slot we have for the next day, this is when we have to start editing. If those time slots are all scheduled and it's ready to go, everything else is just falls into place, I feel. And
Chris, would you agree? Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Yeah. No, absolutely. Chris, do you have any thoughts on advice you'd give to people who are because you've done it a few times?
Yeah, I would say challenge yourself, right? Because I think this is a cool opportunity to diversify your reel, like whether you're an actor, a director, an editor, or you're a writer. I think, like in this instance, I wanted to challenge myself to do something that could potentially feel like a fairy tale, whatever the theme was. I was like, can I aesthetically make it feel that way? And I think that's the fun of this, right? Because I don't think I would have tried to do a fairy tale in any other short film I would make, right? But I think now that I'm forced to do it in 72 hours, do it, and then now I have some diversity in my reel in terms of the different styles of things I direct. Same thing with the actors, right? So I would maybe outline that for yourself. Like what do I not have on my reel? Like, do I not have comedy? Maybe I push myself to do a comedy this time. Do I not have horror? Let me see if I can work with special effects horror stuff, right? Like just use this as an excuse to do some crazy stuff that you wouldn't normally do.
I will say, as somebody who used to rep directors, it is so important to have snippets on your reel that reflect different parts of yourself. And also, even though we love to work with our friends, if you have a reel, I had this one director, he had a reel where he loved this actor and the actor was in all the commercials that he did. And finally, I looked at him and I was like, listen, I'm going to think, looking at this reel, if I'm working in an advertising agency, what I'm seeing is that you can only direct one guy, right? And you have to be able to direct more than one guy. So stop using your neighbor. He was, the director lived in Texas. This guy was actually his next door neighbor and was a great actor, but I couldn't look at his reel, being his rep. I couldn't take him out and sell him. Right. And that actually is how, when you are working in commercial production, that's how you get jobs, right? The 72-hour shootout is great because you have a short storytelling structure. And I have sold directors on short films. And maybe people don't kind of understand that, but it is really important as a sales rep that has to sell you, that I'm able to take your storytelling and show this to creatives in an advertising agency who might not be doing something that necessarily goes to air and they need a big name, but they need to be able to tell that story. That's what they're looking for. So if you don't have a fairy tale or a comedy segment or visual storytelling, that's actually so smart, Chris, to look at your reel and be like, what don't I have on my reel? How do I put that on my reel using this forum of the 72-hour shootout? It's like really, really smart, because my territory was San Francisco, which is a hotbed of advertising creativity. That's where, honestly, that's where all the cool creative comes out of. And I had to go in and sell, like, essentially to the coolest guys on the planet, right? And I'm a pretty hip person, but like there were some directors I absolutely could not sell because their visual storytelling, comedic, dramatic, whatever, was not there because they had one kind of storytelling. And I just think that is a really, really smart comment. I know it's kind of off topic, but considering that I used to sell all y'all back a million years ago, because I'm very, very old, it is really important to see not only just are you putting things out, but what are you going to get back in the universe? Like, how do you put it out, but then how do you take it back and transfer it to another medium where, because I will say commercial direction is very lucrative, especially if you can tell stories in a short form narrative. So you can take this and be able to say, Chris probably can tell you just as well as I can that you can take these narratives. If they're on a reel and you hand it to your rep, he or she is going to be like, yes, this is what I can take from you to get you into the cool creative in San Francisco that's happening. You direct 1 or 2 commercials, that's going to fund your life for minimum a year. And you can work on all your other stuff. I will just say that one of the directors that I helped start was Greg Whiteley, who directed Cheer on Netflix and just directed the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders thing. So, when I met him, he was fresh out of film school. We happened to be taking a comedy class together. And I said, what do you want to be? He said, actually, I want to direct commercials. And I was like, actually, you know what? I'm a commercial director's rep. So, you have to, and he had his reel ready to go. and I was able to sell him to a production company. He repped with the production company. He directed a couple of spots, and like, I haven't seen him in years, and I wish him very well, but he was able to take that and translate it into a new medium, which I thought was very smart. Arjun, what advice would you give
Just like directors in
to
general.
people? No, to somebody trying to enter the 72-hour. What's one thing you didn't know going in that you wish you had known?
I think it's sort of a big pitfall. I think like me and like my co-producer like had was we were very worried about being like prepped before getting the prompt. We weren't really trying to go along with fun of like getting the prompt and then sort of like trying to wrangle the story together. We were like, we need to brainstorm 5 to 6 different kind of themes and ideas. One of the 6 might be like what they pick. And like Practical Dreamer was like something that was like on our minds because you've worked as an investment banker. I was working as a business analyst. We'd collaborate on like short films before. We were struggling in our day job. So the Practical Dreamer idea was something that was like very like near and dear to like what we were going through in like our actual life. So when we got the actual theme, we were like, oh, this is like something that like really connects with us. It was really quick. We came up with the story super rapidly, had the outline in like an hour or two, pumped out the script. It just really came out of us like naturally. So I think instead of like stressing about like the semantics, like the auxiliary things, like putting the crew together, just really just like dialing into the fun of it, sort of like tapping into who you are as like a person, who your collaborators are there as like a people, and then for just like spiritually connecting as a group and just riding that wave instead of maybe like being overtly worried about, oh, now we're going to meet the 72 hours. Is this even going to be like a professional production? I think just like connect with the people you work with, have fun with it, and then look like dig deep in like your own like soul and ideas for like why you are doing this and what you want to like tell.
Yeah, I mean, don't forget the fun is really kind of what I'm hearing from most people. And I think we do, whether we're actors, filmmakers, whatever, we do forget the fun because to us, it is a business as well as something that we love to do. And so sometimes we err a little bit too much on remembering the business side of stuff when you really have to just embrace the fact that like Keith can go grab a camera and hang out with a bunch of his friends and shoot something that's cool. Vasu, as an actor, what would you say to actors coming into this kind of situation?
Memorize your lines. Memorize your lines. You don't have, and you can't wallow on every shot. It's a 72-hour film festival, This is the first time I've done anything like this. So I really had fun, and you should, all the actors, everyone on crew should bring positive energy and the vibes. But for actors, yeah, memorize your lines. If you guys can do a rehearsal before, take advantage of that. And just expect the unexpected, improv, hit your marks. You're gonna be fine, sweetie.
And don't step in anybody's light because that sucks.
Mm-hmm.
That is it. That we have to be, as actors, you have to be conscious of the physical realities of your set. So don't trip on any cables, don't knock out any lights. Make sure you hit your mark and don't look down. Is really like a lot. That's like a big actor thing that sometimes they look down, and I don't know why. All right, we're starting to like wrap it up. Are there any thoughts that Cezanne that you have having completed this, like anything you look back on for yourself and are particularly appreciative of, or what this has taught you, this whole experience?
Well, I mean, having done this competition, I'm definitely on the right trajectory of like my goal or my plan to get out of construction and go into acting full time. It is something that I definitely want to do. My husband's he's an executive producer for reality TV, and he's just encouraged me to move forward with it. I just had a really good time with everything, and I bonded with some super creative people, and everybody has many talents, and they all come out when it's the last minute and everybody's stressing about something. So it's wonderful to see what humanity can do and what kind of like creative solutions that one person could like think of on their feet. So it was a wonderful experience. It seems daunting in the very beginning because it's like 72 hours. You don't know the topic and you have to bring, do a full production. And it seems very overwhelming when you look at the whole scope of things. But if you have a good crew and you're just kind of, I don't know, it just worked out really wonderfully. I would recommend it for people who aren't even in the industry because it just helps you learn how to multitask and be able to work with others, improvise, think on your feet, and also be creative. Think out of the box.
Great. Tyler, anything you learned about yourself through this process or something you're taking away that you didn't kind of have before?
I think Keith said it really beautifully earlier that just like, I feel like that being on a lot of like larger scale sets for a long time, sometimes you forget about the joy and the fun that comes in the creativity and the community that comes with it. And I think Sensen, you mentioned it too, it's like, there's a lot of really great skills that come out of this as well, right? As far as like thinking on your feet. And it's like, and especially like already on some sets, you already are wearing multiple hats, but I'm sure everyone here was wearing all the hats in the world when going through this shoot.
So many hats, right?
So many hats, all the hats stacked to the ceiling with hats. So I think there's just like one that sort of like get together with friends, get to do it with folks in the film, like who are in the film industry that have some experience, some folks who are not, who are just interested in it, who are passionate about it, or just passionate about telling a story, right? Because ultimately it's like, I feel like that's why all of us do it, whether like we do it for our day jobs or not. Ultimately, it's just how much we love storytelling and how much we want to bring these stories to life. So
good. Arjun, anything you learned about yourself as you went through this process?
I think it's sort of just like how I work and like a collaborative process. I think like when I was getting into filmmaking, like early on, like middle school, I was sort of trying to one-man army everything. And I didn't really want anyone like getting in the way of like how I like envision things. And I would try and make something, film something, write it, direct it, do the VFX all on my own. And then I would just get super upset at it like not turning out how I wanted it to be. And as I got like older, I started like meeting people, finding other people who had like the same like passions as me, finding other like Asian people who was like into like filmmaking too, which was like very uncommon growing up in like a rural area in America. So it's been like incredible finding like other people with the same background as me. Made me feel a lot more comfortable collaborating with people who had like a similar background to me. And just like I felt I was able to discover just more about myself, who I am as like a creative, by just like bonding with other people who are doing the same thing, which I just like never thought I would ever find in my life. So that's been probably the coolest experience of it all.
Yeah, I understand that. It's hard to be the only. It's hard to like look at, walk into a room, and I do it every day, and I understand because I also teach, and I understand when the students come in and they're like, I'm the only, and I was like, I have been the only. It gets better as you go further along, but it's a commonality of being the only when you start that kind of bonds everybody together as you go through this journey. Keith, do you want to share anything that you have learned about yourself? Or
yeah, I think this experience being on the 72-hour shootout has kind of like reaffirmed that like, yes, like I am a filmmaker and yes, I'm a director. And because I think like I hadn't directed in like a narrative in a while before this one. And I don't know, after rapping, I just kind of made me realize that like in order to be in this business, in order to be like a director, a DP, like anybody who's in this life, you have to be like addicted. You have to be like an addict for like making movies, because otherwise it's not going to work out. You're gonna like burn out. But I don't know, just like it just kind of reaffirmed that, like I'm like, this is my calling. Like I need to keep doing this, and I can't ever give up. And I don't know, like a funny thing is that the lenses that we had like anamorphics on set, which is like really a luxury, right? But the reason why we got the anamorphics is because one of our DPs, he had a set where like the production rented those lenses for that production, and he was like, dude, I have these lenses, let's use them. And so then we used another production's lenses for production. And after we wrapped, he also kind of like found like the joy for production and like just making random shit again. So like he's like, dude, we saw these lenses, like let's shoot something else like right now. And we wrapped at like 6 a.m. We wrapped at 6 a.m. He's like, let's shoot something else like right now before we have to return these lenses. And the only reason why I said no was because I'd work at 8 a.m. So like
Fair.
yeah, so it's just like I don't know. It just kind of like made me appreciate filmmaking and like just reminded me like why I'm doing this again, you know. And as a matter of fact, like because we did the 72-hour film challenge, like the core team, like we have made a goal to like, oh, let's do this. Let's just make something random and like something fun, even if we don't submit to festivals or anything, just for ourselves. Like whenever we have the opportunity, like a production pays for lenses, let's like use it to shoot something random, like once every like 3 months. You know, let's just do it. We have the
Yeah.
camera body, we have a lens. I'm a sound mixer. I have my sound kit. You know, like we can just make something. I know hella
Make a
actors-
film.
yeah,
Make
yeah,
a
just-
film. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good exercise, and it's like you said. I don't remember who said this earlier, but like if something's missing from my reel, like you know, just write something for the reel. You know, it can just be fun. Yeah.
1,000%. You will be amazed once you look at your reel, like clinically look at your reel as a director and say, what is missing? What am I capable of? And what have I just like for time or money or circumstance, what is missing? And then use these opportunities to say like, hey, let's go get it. Let's go fill it in. Like it's an almost complete crayon drawing, but like we haven't colored in that tree. Let's go color the tree, you know, and give yourself like an actionable thing that you can do to inform your career. You know, it's not always about, I'm going to do the 72-hour shootout and it's not going to have any overall impact on my life. No, it can have an incredible impact on your life. Not just if you're an award-winning film, but just as a filmmaker, like fill in the whole picture. Like take that crayon and be like, that's a blue tree. And that's why it just is. Vasu, what have you learned as an actor throughout the film shootout?
Again, this is the first time I've ever done this. I think one thing I learned and can be reiterated is you're good enough. You know, you're not gonna have time for every single takes. You're not gonna have time for every single shot you want. You're not gonna have time to do it one way or the other. You have time for maybe a couple takes and make it happen, you know? Just go make it happen. Again, this is fun. This is a process that we all love and enjoy. Do it for the love of the game, and the game will reward you. So go make it happen.
Yeah, and get out of your head a little bit. Like get out of your head as an actor. Like let it go. You probably nailed it at least by the second take, but you're overthinking and you want 20 more. Well, you can't have it because we only had 72 hours.
Exactly.
Right?
I think everyone here reiterated it multiple times, you know. It's for the love of the game, you know.
Yeah,
We're all
exactly.
gamers and it's for the love of the game.
If you build it, it will come. Chris, take us home. Like, what are your thoughts on having done the shootout and what did you learn this time around since you've done it a couple of times?
Yeah, I would echo the addiction side of it. I don't know if this happens to other people, but because I'm so consumed, like I think about nothing else for 3 or more days straight, that when it's over, I crash. Like my you know, I'm just like there's a void, and it makes me like I need to do something else to fill this void. It's almost like I don't know, like a temporary depression or something. It's like I was so involved in doing something and now I'm not. Like, what am I doing with my life at this moment?
Right.
So I think there is that addiction aspect. And I saw it happen with the writer producer. This is her first time in film, period. We know each other because we're both novelists. And she had the same thing. It was like the next week she was texting me like, what are we doing now? What's the next movie we're making? So I do think that's something to, one, be prepared for, that you're going to be consumed, but also be ready to get addicted and follow that passion.
That's great. So with that being said, I want to thank all my filmmakers and their wonderful films. They will be screening, they have screened at the Asian American International Film Festival in August, but I do believe that they are going to be screened again on the Asian American Film Lab's television channel that they broadcast on, which of course is escaping me at the moment.
Eye Crossings, I think it is.
Eye Crossings, yeah. It's Eye Crossings television. And thank you so much for spending your time with us. If you are interested in participating in the 72-hour shootout, please go to the website, download the information, and start thinking about how many stories you can tell, because the truth is, it's unlimited. I'm Erin Quill. You've been with the Asian American Film Lab. We appreciate your time. We appreciate your effort to be here. And we very much appreciate also donations. So if you have an idea, please invest in the Film Lab. It's repaid 1,000-fold. Thank you all for participating and being here.